everyone, my name's Anthony Cummins, welcome to this video. I am the head of a resurrected samurai school called Natori, and this video is mainly for the students of Natori. So if you're getting a little bit confused, you're not sure what's going on, don't worry about it. If you'd like to join us, you can join us at Natori Ryu Hub on Facebook. However, let's get on with it. Is samurai warfare useful today? Is the study of samurai warfare a useful thing to do with your spare time? Okay, I've got a good friend of mine called Jason Kane, and he has been a friend of mine for about 20 years now, way before I started Natori. And when he started getting into Natori, he says, I don't really like warfare. And I was like, oh my god. Right, and I had to slap him and beat him. And he's like, what is it? And I was like, let me explain to you why warfare is good. Because he's saying, what use is it to me? Now, Jay is an accomplished martial artist. He's a good artist. He is in graphics and drawing. He loves philosophy and he loves religion and the different religions and exploring the different ways religions talk about the way we should basically use our minds. He's very much into mental. So he says, what can I get from these physical things of Japanese warfare? At the same time, I was in Japan with another friend of mine from a different school, and one of the people, not his student, but someone from his lineage was there. We were discussing, and they said, oh, I don't really like strategy. And you can see my friend was like, oh, you know, me being, I love strategy. And then we discussed it later. So what I want to do today is show you how strategy actually does come into your day-to-day life of, you know, this modern era through ancient ways. Now today I'm going to be quoting from Japanese scrolls, and I'm going to be using 6 different scrolls from the school Natori Ryu. I'm going to be using Heika Jodan, Heigu Yoho, Ippei Yoko, Heiaki Yoho, Shoninki, and another one, which I'm not going to say the name of it, but another shinobi scroll from Natori, that's 6. 3 of those have been published, so 3 of yours have got them, and some of the stuff from the other one I've let go in videos and I've let go on seminars, so many of these students of Natori do know that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you why it's useful through a conversation I had on WhatsApp. In Natori Ryu, we have a WhatsApp group with just a few of us in who talk and chat, and I opened up this group to different members from the social, internet community in Natori Ryu, and they came along. And we had a little bit of a to-do with one gentleman who's a very nice guy. I'm not going to name names in this apart from Jay, because it's alright to name Jay, but the rest of them, no names, everything is fine, everything is sorted. Nobody's been left without their honour, nobody's left feeling bitter, I hope, but we had a little bit of a to-do in a WhatsApp conversation, but it all got resolved. But I'd like to use that to show you guys what I think about samurai warfare. So, now, what happened was I put out a call saying who wants to come in, and I said to people, please just be careful how you enter, be nice, and just, it's a nice group. And one of the guys came in, had a little bit of a 1 or 2 message chat, and then asked this question. Now let me read it from you from my notes. Is there a degree of eisegesis when researching text and scrolls, or does something only become in the book when it has been exclusively exegesis? And then after a couple of this, he says, mic drop, boom, deep. And I was like, you could feel everybody go, like that. And everybody was going like, oh my god, that was a terrible entrance, and that was like a terrible question. So let's look at this from a strategic point of view. Now, first of all, we have to look at the question. It's clearly academic. It's clearly extremely academic, okay? There's no, I was like, and I've done a master's degree at the University of Manchester, and I was like, okay, right, let's have a quick gander at this. What it means basically is exegesis and eisegesis is they're usually used to talk about biblical study, but actually they are now widely used in the scholastic community. And basically, and I did get some advice from a man called Stephen Nojiri, so I have to give thanks to him. Just before I made this video, I wanted to make sure everything was fine, and so just to give him a shout out. So the difference between the two is basically eisegesis is have I put a lot of my thoughts into the book, into the translation? Have I put too much of my contamination into the book? And exegesis is basically, is it perfect? Is it exactly what Natori Sanjuro Masazumi, that was the person who wrote the original manuscript, is that what he said, and is it 100% what is meant in English? So straight away the question is, how much have you interfered with the scrolls? So basically those people who got it and those people who didn't get it were like, oh, so those people who didn't get it were like, what's this guy on about? And those people who got it were like, you've just basically said, Anthony, have you messed up the translation and added what you wanted, or have you got it right? It is the basic setup, which is a terrible way to sort of do in public. But later he assured us the question was genuine. And it's not a bad question, it's a good question. So let me get this right. The question is a good question. It has been debated by scholars for a long time, and the simple answer is this: it is impossible to get a perfect translation. Anybody who says there is a perfect translation is utter, stupid, totally crazy, basically. You cannot get a perfect one because we're all brought up with different ideas, but what we try to do is get as much of the I'll keep to the easy words. Get it as much into the clarity, the original intention of the author in the text, and put your intention, your discussions in the footnotes. But a guy who's very good out there, who's a very intellectual guy, John Hayter, he explained all this in the text, in the conversation. So you've got this idea that you're meant to keep that bit pure, and that bit is your opinion. But there is no one in the world who can do that because you don't have a time machine to go back in time, and people have different ideas on what it means. Some things are clearly obvious what it means, other things you have to come to debate about it, and you have to use other scrolls to supplement it. But the point is that his question, the answer is obvious. He already knows his own answer. If he could compile that question, he knows the answer is, it's impossible to do. So really you've got to ask why is he asking that question? So let's look at this from a Gungaku military skills point of view. First of all, my mistake is Sun Tzu says when you give an instruction, give it very clearly and multiple times. So I should have said multiple times, when you enter this conversation, please do so in an easy, polite manner. You know, keep it nice, keep it free. I should have made this clear, but instead he came with like mic drop, boom, deep question, go. And it was like, everybody was really put off by it. So I should have been clearer according to Sun Tzu. So let's treat this as a battlefield. What do we know about it as? So let's take this. So going back to Jay's point is that how do we use battlefield techniques here in conversation? Well, first of all, if you're fighting in a dojo, it's a battlefield. If you're literally on a battlefield, it's a battlefield. If you're conversing, it's a battlefield. When you're a student of Gungaku, everything is a battlefield. Okay, so let's look at WhatsApp as the field of battle. Is what terrain are we on? So let's look at Sun Tzu again, the 10th chapter, the different types of terrain. Now the different types of terrain are there, laid out for you in Sun Tzu, but what we've got here is accessible terrain. That means we can both access it. He can come in, I can come in, we can go out, but he has to remember the amount of men on the field of that battle are my loyal retainers. These are like dedicated people to Natori and my cause. So that means when you come into this terrain, you're coming into an equal terrain where we can leave and go out, but it's filled with loyal retainers who support me. So that's the first step in understanding this as Gungaku. Also, you have to ask, what's his intention? What's his intention? What's the actual reason he's asking that question? Does he genuinely want to know how much of my influence is in the books? Or does he want to establish how intellectual he is? Or does he want to insult me by cornering me? Which I'll talk about in a moment. So first of all, let's look at the skill Kurai no Kotoba, which means words for basically determining dominance later on. Now what Natori Ryu teaches us, Isui Sensei, the guy who wrote it, Natori Sanjuro Masazumi, what he says is you have to come in soft first, talk soft first, and then build up to something, then strong, because people go from your first impressions, and if your first impression is too harsh and abrasive and creates a problem, that's left with you for life then. So we use Kurai no Kotoba to ease our way into situations, which he only did, the guy asking the question did one or maybe two, which wasn't enough. You've got to give it a few days of chatting to let it get sink in. But instead of letting it sink in, it just boom, there you go, it was a surprise attack. So let's imagine we're on a battlefield, we're on surprise attack. So this surprise attack Now in Natori Ryu there's a tradition passed on from Takeda clan. Now the Natori clan did serve the Takeda clan, this is absolute fact, and so it's high probability that this is a truth, and very possible. And it says in the secret scrolls that the Takeda clan passed on in their warfare, obviously to their clans, including Natori Ryu, something called Sandan no Fui. Now Sandan no Fui is the 3 ways of surprise attack. And this means when you first meet someone in surprise attack, like, whoa, if they're surprised, go in and kill. If you're both surprised, you wait like a string pulling, and then when you see them flicker, go in and kill. Or pull back and wait for an insubstantial moment and then go in. Okay, so this works the same as a dojo or a fight. When you get in a fight, you're both surprised, bump, go in. Something you both know there's that tension there, wait and then break it. Or there's the retreat, wait, bang. This is the same for that. So because of this question, I had to go, right, I need some time here to think and bring my thoughts. I don't have time to just go in and attack or defend or whatever I'm going to do. So I used Sandan no Fui to retreat. I used this principle, I retreated. I said, and I left a message saying, let me sort this out in a bit. I'll get back to you tomorrow. And that created there. So that gave me, I used that skill to create space. Now there is an issue in Natori Ryu about basically passing on difficult to others. Don't pass on difficult to others. So one of the guys who was in there actually said, gave an answer which was great, but then said, we'll wait for Anthony to do this. That's a big no-no, that's a big no-no. Because he said that before I made my point. So first off, here's an example, and let's wait for Anthony. That's passing the difficulty on to me. So he didn't ask me directly, he was asking everybody. But basically somebody auto put me in the place of thingy. I'm like, whoa, you know, you don't do that without speaking to me first. So that was a problem, that was not doing it right. Even though they had a great attempt at the question, they did pass on the difficulty to someone else, which you shouldn't do. Then somebody else agreed on that and said, yeah, let Anthony deal with it. And you're like, no guys, that is not what Natori Ryu teaches us. You have to, can you not see I'm creating space? Obviously the conversation's going on. I'm creating space to give me time. And they're like, oh, we'll speak to Anthony. And you're like, no, this has become a normal conversation now. This has no strategy in it. So come on guys, let's think strategy. So at this point there was a feeling in the thread where everybody went, whoa, you know, let's think. And you could feel on a battlefield, it was like people were waiting in the sidelines to see what was going to go on. They didn't create something strategic in their mind. They just waited. So waiting is fine, but wait with strategy. So the first thing you have to do is find out what are his objectives. Now I'm sure, and I know this guy's objective were not at all malintent. He's a very nice guy. He's one of our students. He's a registered student. He's full on Natori Ryu. So obviously he didn't have bad intent, but I have to find out his intent. So I have to look at the skills of our school. The first one I checked was Hyori no Koto, which means deception. Is he deceiving me? Is he trying to get one over on me? Because this is a difficult question, or it's a question that leaves me in a bad position. So I'm like, is he using Hyori, deception? And it's like, no he's not. So I'm going to have to use, I trusted that he wasn't. So I'm going to have to use Kyojitsu no Koto, which is the idea of substantial and insubstantial. That means, so in life, in war, in whatever, you're presented with something. You're presented with A. Is it a truth or is it a lie? When you're presented with the other thing, is it a truth or is it a lie? And you have to, as everything, you have to check these. Which is true, which is not. That is Kyojitsu. So I had to go through and find out which one his intention was. So I turned to a skill in a scroll that's not yet published, and this was about Kyojitsu for the individual. But it taught me that I should use comparisons with other things that he said. Now I didn't have access to other things that he had said because it was one of the first things he'd come along. So I was like, I can't use this skill because I don't have enough data. I need more data. So that skill had to go by the side until I collected data, or just it wasn't the proper skill for this situation because it was a surprise attack. If we look to the Shoninki, which is Shoninki Ichiryu no Shidai, this is about the correct order of the Shoninki, the correct path of doing things. Now it teaches us that Kyojitsu is the absolute core of everything in ninjutsu. So Kyojitsu is one of those things where you have to, everything you look at, truth or fake, truth or fake, truth or fake. Reality, non-reality. So it teaches in the Shoninki, first check this. So I had to move through these different skills to find out what was going on. For those students in Natori, Sun Tzu's 6th chapter is all about Kyojitsu. So that is one of the points about whether they're real or what they're displaying is not real, you know, that type of thing. So have a quick look at the 6th chapter. So basically, does he want an answer to that question? Probably yes, but that's not the issue here. He uses the word deep, or deep mic drop, boom, you know, this is deep conversation. So most likely he's probably trying to put across something like, you know, he's educated and he's deep, which he is educated, absolutely. But he also didn't check the passing on difficulties to others. He's put me in a situation where I have to answer. The absolute situation is I have to answer is my ideas and thoughts, plus Yoshie's, plus Miyako's, plus all the Japanese team are in that text to a certain level. We try to keep it to the utmost level, the smallest level we can, but it is impossible. It's simple fact that there is no text that has been translated that has zero sort of reflection from the authors translating it, okay? And the team that are doing it. So he's put me in a difficult position, and he should have realised this. Obviously he didn't know that and he didn't think that, but in front of my loyal retainers he's gone, is your work really good or really bad? You're like, well, do you want me to answer that? You know, how can you answer that? Good or bad, your work? You're like, well, good, obviously, I think. If it's bad, I don't know, you know. So he's already passed difficulties onto me. What is he basically trying to do? So this brings up, and Jay Kane brought this up, is wisdom versus intellect within our school. Is what's the difference between intellect? He's clearly intellectual, and everybody on there is very intellectual. But was it a wise move to say this in public? So basically, I explained the above to him. I said, right, listen, I came back after I created my space. I came back and said, listen, we've got Kyojitsu here, we've got Hyori, we've got this. Are you establishing? You're using the word deep, mic drop, boom. You know, are you cool? Are you intellectual? And I pulled this all in. So I didn't have a go at him. I said, let's break this down, guys, and let's have a look at this. Exactly like what I'm doing here in this video. So that's how I resolved this question. And I just want to share with you how we were doing that. So this now has moved on from Sandan no Fui to Kesan no Shidai, which basically means we've gone from surprise attack, and now I've engaged him, I've taken my time, I've engaged him, and it's gone to phases of battle. So that means now we're like, he can choose to go to war with me and just argue and argue and argue all day, and which many people have done in the past, and that would create a battleground. But he was like, oh Anthony, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, of course, Jance, that's not what I meant, I'm here just for friendly conversation. And he said it was a little bit of a bad question to start off with, I apologise, which was wonderful. He's, as I say, he's a nice chap. But it meant we moved from surprise attack. Now, in my head, I was like, right, we're in phases of battle now. So I have the choice to either go up and crush him, yeah, which is the total war aspect of it, which we do use, inside of it we use things like jiaki, which is about burning, so I could go around and burn all his points and get everything burned, or we can come to a mutual agreement and move on. So of course, you know, we're all friends, so it's mutual agreement, we don't want total war inside of WhatsApp, and he said that's fine, but he still had to leave with dignity. Now, the problem here is that all of my friends, bar one or two, all of my loyal retainers stood on the sides, and they even sent me secret messages like, what's this guy on about? Or, I would have said something but I'm angry. Or guys, that's not strategy, that's not good. I didn't mind his question, I actually more minded people messaging me on the side saying, well, you know, no, show your loyalty up front and in there. Or I'll show you, we'll go into some of the things that should have been done. So he's going what we would call in our school Hitori no Shingari, standing alone and retreating. So if you're in a dojo and it's a gang fight on the street or whatever, one of them will stand alone and retreat, or multiple will. Now nobody came to his aid from the students, so it wasn't a Shingari defense, it was Hitori no Shingari, which means to stand alone, okay? So he stood alone in defeat. So I had to rethink how I need to give him an exit strategy, because in our school, when we think, you don't block them off, you give them an exit strategy. What you do is you block them at first and then you open an avenue. So I had to open an avenue for him to retreat from, and he, keeping his honour, had to use Hitori no Shingari, which is defending alone. So we've got this inside a mental situation, this very, very real Japanese system that is now inside of the modern WhatsApp. So I start using a different skill, and I do this because it says do not take honour from other people, let them leave with honour. So then I started giving him compliments, but I had to use what's in our Shoninki about called the art of the kuruma, the art of the wheel and cart, which is flattery. So I have to give him, but like a good salesman, you have to be very subtle in this. So I had to find a truth to flatter. You don't flatter about non-truth. Like I said, oh, you're looking good today. We're on WhatsApp. I don't know what he looks like. So basically, I had to pick one thing that was real. He's clearly an intelligent man. So I'm like, here you are intelligent, we can see that, but maybe you've come at this the wrong way. Maybe we should do this. That gives him a dignified retreat. Absolutely fine. He has kept his honour. I have kept my honour. The guys here have kept their honour. Everybody is very much at an equal level, and there is nothing left. So you see, there's no reason for revenge here. He's not going to create a revenge attack, which we have an entire system of katakauchi, which is revenge, sometimes called arauchi, and we have an entire one in our scroll, Heika Jodan. So he might have gone down that route, so we need to give him his dignity as he retreats and rejoins the group. To add to this, I asked him to use our system of Jochu-gei, which means, it's very common in Japan, which means high level, middle level and low level. Let me read it to you. So let's read his first question again. So the Jo level, the high level question is there a degree of eisegesis when researching texts and scrolls, or does something only become in the book when it has been exclusively exegesis? Okay, so you're like, all right, everybody's like, well, okay, let's make our heads around that. So I said, let's write it in Chu, the middle level. And that's, since old scrolls can be hard to read or incomplete from damage, are there times where you decide to fill in the blanks with personal understanding, or must everything be exclusively said from the person writing it? Now, Gay, the lowest one, I've asked him to do it in the most basic English he can. Is there any times where you have to read into the text or scrolls when researching them, or does something only become official if it is said so clearly in the writing? Now, so there's the three levels, and you can take that even lower. It's like, and did you add anything into it, or is it purely what the guy said who wrote it? That's what that question means. Eisegesis, exegesis is basically, did you make and contaminate the scrolls, or is it purely what's there? The end. It's not a difficult question in its essence. It's in its essence and form. So one of the teachings, definitely from our Shinobi no Jutsu curriculum, the Shoninki, is how to not defeat other people. And it says, Isui Sensei says, do not disengage from somebody else. Do not become their opponent unless you are highly skilled. If you are highly skilled, you can do this to gain information. You have to not disconnect from the enemy. So when this question was asked, he automatically disconnected from me. It wasn't, you should come in and agree, you should come in and give basic flattery, which is just what most basic conversation is done on. And you run along, it says in the Shoninki, run along familiar lines until you get the answer you want. But he didn't, he disengaged without plan, without strategy, went for it. It was like, whoa, and he created discord between everybody. So this is straight out of the Shoninki, 1681, teachings that you shouldn't do. So this goes hand in hand with Kurai no Kotoba, how to basically, words of dominance, coming in with a soft, easy edge. However, I would like to say, it was a great experiment in Natori Ryu, and I would say the worst bit of it was not his comment, it was actually my retainers. They went silent almost, whoosh, like, you could see everybody's like, nah. And I was like, what are you doing? Secret messages were getting passed in the background. Oh, I would do this, Anthony, or I should do this, or maybe I'll do this, but and it was like just empty words basically. So I had to then readdress what was going on. So let me tell, this is my message to the students who were there and to other students of Natori, just how you should approach these things. Now there's a skill from the section on Bangashira, that's the captains of the guard. Now in ancient times, in the 1500s, Bangashira were actually on the field of battle, but later they became castle guards. But on the field of battle, Bangashira lead and organise their men. Now what we have in Natori, we have a system of fighting in threes. So what we say is, don't be like, single man fighting alone, unless you're mega hard. Pick the best three of you to get together, and groups of three, and what one does is go on straight attack. The other guy will go round the back and slice their throat, while the third guy goes around in a circle making sure everybody stays away. So this groups of three should have absolutely been done by the other students. One should have distracted him from going to the front, bang, 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 with questions, while Anthony gets some time, bang, bang, bang. Somebody else should have come in with snide comments about him, about, something else. What do you mean? Having an attack from behind, a real vicious attack. And the other one, if somebody came to defend him, they should have defended against that. So obviously we're not trying to cause discord, we would all be friends at the end of it. But the point is, if we're going to use this against real enemies, not him, he's not a real enemy, he's one of our students, real enemies in a conversation, that's how it works. If it's a street fight, if it's a dojo fight, if it's a fight on the battlefield, if it's a conversation, one creates distraction, one does the real damage, and one defends from other people speaking or giving attack. 3-man teams, guys, 3-man teams in Natori Ryu. Nobody did it, nobody, come on. Now, I've spoke about this in a few videos. Now, what about this teaching here about observing fights in other people's houses? If you've observed a fight in other people's houses, you should cover the exits, okay? So what do I mean by cover the exits in a WhatsApp? So what it means is, basically, don't let them escape and do damage elsewhere. So if somebody's had a fight in a house and they can't get out, they're going to tell people, something's going to happen. So Natori Isui Sensei says stop them, even if you have to kill them, and don't let them exit until it's resolved. Otherwise it'll cause problems and it could get political, it could get massive. So what that means is that the rest of the students should have gone and checked his YouTube, should have checked his Facebook, should have checked Instagram, Twitter. If he was saying like, oh God, I'm talking to Anthony Cummins, he's such a dick, or this Anthony Cummins, they should have been straight on it, bam, 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 shut that down, talk to him, or at least come in and chat to him and stop him from exiting. So what that means is stop him from going talking on other social media, do private message to him, say, hey, okay, how's it going? But letting his frustrations come out this way instead of going to YouTube, Instagram. He didn't, of course, but my point is that as a Natori Ryu student, that's what you should be doing. Don't let them leave the exit. Consider the exits. Why? Because if they get out, there's going to be problems. So if that guy's going to exit the group and then go chat to other people, you need to stop that before it happens. You can't stop it once that spreads. So that's something else that the students watching should have taken into consideration. But our school, Natori Ryu, is famous for its Shinobi no Jutsu, its ways of the ninja. So could we have used Shinobi no Jutsu to actually look at this situation? How about Sannin Shinobi no Koto, 3-man Shinobi teams, or including 2-man Shinobi teams? We could have clearly used this. So one man goes, personal messages him on his side, gets into it. He starts talking to him. Boom, boom, boom. Getting it. What do you think of that? What do you think Anthony's just done? He becomes his friend. They go inside. So if there's a mansion, one man goes inside. Then he feeds information back to the others, where the locks are, how to open it. He'll even open bits. So he will be feeding information back to the other guy, who will then be prepping and checking the exits. Yeah. So that's an example of using 3- and 2-man ninja teams in a WhatsApp conversation. Get different ones going. Get on his inside by going through his gate. In this concept, the gate, the mon, is his WhatsApp application on the phone. Start private messaging him. Get inside. When you're in our thread, that's the outside, not his inside. He's not going to say things on the outside when everybody can see, but he might say things on the inside. So maybe move to Facebook, things like that. Or how about Joenin from the 10 Ancient Ways of Ninjutsu, which is shadow-like ninjutsu. So that means for them, 3 or 4 days, just track him. Don't be a ghost. Nobody can see you. You shinobi. Track everything he does, every account he's got, every movement he makes, on the digital interweb. And then you can check what's going on, build a profile, know where he's going. While the 3-man shinobi team, one of them's inside talking to him. Gather information, use Shinobi no Jutsu. Now there's another skill, which I'm not going to put the Japanese down, is from a different Shinobi scroll, and it's about causing discord between people. Now this could have been used because in this causing discord, it actually has a reverse, which is causing unification between people. Now many people out there claim to read the Shoninki and know the Shoninki very well, and you might all be very familiar with the magical spell from basically from this chapter, just while I talk. So the magical spell of that. But what a lot of people don't know is if you've only read the Shoninki, you don't have the full skill. The skill beforehand is about unifying people and dividing people on a literal physical level, not magical. So nobody tried this skill, which was a unification between people. And even more, nobody wrote out the spell of our two names, which is in our school, folded it over and made good communication. And you chant the two names and you fold them onto each other to make a good unification between people. So there's using the physical skill and the magical skill. That could have been done. So guys, just to round up there, let's get a reality of this. It was just an internet conversation. It wasn't a big deal. In fact, it was very polite, very nice. He's a very nice guy. We were all very nice. Everything's fine. But what we're talking about here is the intention he put it in with was not the reality of what came out. Or if it was, and he did really mean, oh, I just want to ask this question, Anne, then he's created problems for me. So it's either a case of he's being horrible, or he's just misunderstood what the situation and not used gungaku. That was what got me the most. So he wasn't being horrible. I know this now. We know that he was just being nice. You know, he's just trying to find things out. He even said, I'm a bit like this. I'm a bit too blunt and forward. So what we've got here is a situation where we should use, as Natori students, the arts of Natori so that we can defend, prep, work as a team, and not only work as a team, work with strategy. So you've got option one, letting things just go as they go, which is not strategy. We might win, we might not win, let's not have any plans, doesn't matter. Then there's go in, get as much information as we can, build a strategy, do everything, do the esoteric rituals, get everything on the ground forward using all the principles of our school, which might seem like a massive amount of overkill for a WhatsApp. But for those who don't know, that's what samurai warfare is. Samurai warfare is 99% preparation, background work. It's only at the end do you get victory through being, be sure to only fight the battles that you know you can win. The reason you know that you can win them is there's 99% of the work is done beforehand. So for those people there who were in that thread, and those people who are listening to me now, I don't think you understand Natori enough, because some of the guys there were literally some of my top guys, and they did A, the wrong thing, and B, didn't prep anything, or C, just didn't get involved, which is not what you should be doing. Now I'm also to blame here. I should have used what's called Hatamoto, the command group. I should have gone to a different thread, created a new group and said, right, picked 4 or 5 of my best guys and said, right, you guys, this is your job, this is your job, this is your job. Go back to Sun Tzu, back to our first point is Sun Tzu, make clear instructions. So I failed in that response, but you guys failed, or the guys involved there, in the response of, if you're in that thread, doing those things from our school. And they're not the only things we could have done. The point about gungaku is you pick what's worked. So you could say, oh, Anthony, you've just retro picked that to fit the situation, but it's not true, because I did it and I went through, I disengaged, I came back, I resolved it, I explained what I was doing all the way along, and Jay came back, she came was like, I can't believe it. So let's round this up now. We started with Jay Kane said, I don't understand, warfare's useless to me, what is it? And after we went through this conversation, and obviously I speak to Jay all the time, we were inboxing each other, and I was saying, he was like, Anthony, that's straight out of the book. He turned to the page, he was like, oh my God, that's straight out of the book. There it is. So he says, Jay has taken it now from a 1500s battlefield about the different samurai in their armour doing things to a WhatsApp conversation in the 21st century. And he said, it's the same, Anthony. He can't believe it. It's exactly the same. He says, Jay, it's always the principle. The skills may change, the armour will change, the battleground will change, even to a digital conversation, but the principles remain the same. The song remains the same, guys. The principles are always there. Natori and any other school you get involved with, which is historical military strategy and military warfare, is excellent, and you should do it. So don't worry, many people dress in a kama and use katana. That is wonderful, because it gives you something to do. It gives you a bit of dignity in your ironing. It gives you a bit of care of your sword and something to settle on. And that's fine, and I enjoy doing that myself. But you must build this into your character. Your character must be built on strategy. 99% of the work you do will be thrown to the side, but you will never be caught off guard in your overall life. And, well, not never's the wrong word, but the prospect of being caught off guard is much slimmer. And when you are caught off guard, you have systems in place to counteract that. All the way from Takeda Shingen down to Wales and America and the internet, and it's the same principles and they're being used today. So if all this conversation has not bored you to death and you find it interesting, you can, obviously the books are Book of Samurai and the Shoninki, which is True Path of the Ninja. You can get them, the strategies are all in there, you just have to learn to dissect them. Right guys, for those people on the hub, make sure this becomes a decent conversation. Stacey, Anthony, the next time you have a hub, the next time you have a Google Hangouts, make sure this becomes a topic. And the rest of you, let's know what you think. What do you think of how can you use these different situations? Remember, each and every general will use different situations, different skills for different situations. One of them will be successful, the other may not. That's the point of warfare. Okay guys, my name's Anthony Cummins. Glad you kept along with the video. See you next time.